Muhammad was born into a culture where moon god worship was dominant. Furthermore, he was born into the Quraysh tribe, who were particularly devoted to the moon god. According to numerous inscriptions, the title of this moon god was Al-Ilah, which means the deity or the god, meaning that he was the chief or high god amongst many gods. Al-Ilah, the god, was shortened to Allah in pre-Islamic times. Muhammad's father and uncle both had the name Allah incorporated into their own names. His father was called Abdallah and his uncle was called Obidallah. This echoes the Babylonian practice of incorporating your god into your own name and illustrates the preeminence of the moon god cult in his time. This fact answers the questions: why is Allah never defined in the Quran? Why did Muhammad assume that the pagan Arabs already knew who Allah was? The answer is because they already did know who Allah was. He was their moon god. Muhammad wasn't attempting to introduce the concept of a new god in the Quran. He was merely building on the one that already existed in the area. All Muhammad did was go one step further than his fellow pagan Arabs. While they believed that Allah, the moon god, was the greatest of all gods in a whole pantheon of gods, Muhammad said that Allah was not just the greatest god amongst many, but that he was in fact the only god. In effect, he said, "Look, you already believe that the moon god Allah is the greatest of all gods. All I want you to do is accept the idea that he is the only god. I'm not taking away the Allah you already worship. I'm only taking away his wife and his daughters and all the other gods." Here is a picture of an Allah idol recovered in Arabia. Note the crescent moon on his chest. The pagan Arabs never accused Muhammad of preaching a different Allah to the one they already worshipped, and archaeological evidence proves that he was one and the same. The Encyclopedia of Religion says, Allah is a pre-Islamic name corresponding to the Babylonian Bel. Allah is nothing more than Baal again with a new name. Muhammad attempted to have it both ways though. To pagans he said that he still believed in the moon god Allah, but to the Jews and the Christians he said that Allah was their god too. In effect, it was the same technique that Catholic bishops had used to merge Christianity with paganism. Many Christians today have swallowed the lie that Allah is the same as the Christian God, when he is in fact Baal. Muslims have been taught that their redemption will not come until all Jews have been destroyed, and therefore they will not stop fighting against them until they have reached this end. The prophet Ezekiel reports a time when Arab nations will team up with Russia to attempt to wipe out Israel. They will be driven to do this partly because of this prophecy. If the Jews are not wiped out, according to Islam, their false Messiah can't come. Do not be misled by claims of Muslims that their gripe with Israel is about land. Satan wants the Jews destroyed, as he has done from the beginning of time. He has hardwired this desire into the core of Islam through Muhammad, and they will work towards that end, no matter how much land Israel gives them. Muslims believe that they must kill all Jews, or their religion has been proved to be false. It's that simple. The goal of Islam is to extend its influence until it rules the entire world. In Islam, the world is currently divided into two, the House of Islam and the House of the Unbeliever or Infidel. They foresee a day when the whole earth will become Islamic and work continuously towards this end. The name Islam actually means submission, and this refers to the whole world submitting to the rule of the pagan moon god Allah, Allah being another name for Baal, and Baal being Satan. They believe that world peace will only come when they have triumphed over all the so-called infidel. Just before we move on from this short exploration of Islam, I want to make it clear that when this series is titled Know Your Enemy, it does not refer to any human being or group of human beings. Christians are to have no human enemies and are commanded by Jesus to love even those who hate us. The enemy referred to in the title is a spiritual one. As Ephesians 6:12 says, "For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places." The Muslims have one holy book called the Quran, and several other volumes called Hadith, which are oral traditions relating to the words and deeds of Muhammad. Hadiths are considered important tools for determining the Muslim way of life. Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim are thought to be particularly authoritative. According to the Hadith of Bukhari, Muhammad used to retire to a cave alone where he would spend long periods of time, several days, praying to Allah. It was in the cave that he experienced an encounter with an angel who apparently gave him a revelation from God. The angel asked him to read some writing, whereupon he replied that he couldn't read. Muhammad was illiterate. The angel then pressed upon him with such force and in such a way that he felt like he was going to die. Clearly it was a distressing experience. Upon returning to his wife Khadija, he is reported to have been terrified, indeed his neck muscles twitching with terror, and convinced that he had encountered something satanic. Now his wife Khadija had a Roman Catholic cousin called Waraka. Khadija ran to Waraka to report this experience to him to see if he had any insight from his Catholic religion. In response, Waraka wrongly referenced Moses as receiving revelations from the angel Gabriel in this manner, and suggested this could have been what had happened to Muhammad. The angel Gabriel is in fact only mentioned in the Bible 4 times, twice in Daniel and twice in Luke, and never in relation to Moses. After hearing about this, however, Muhammad's mind was changed about who he had just had an encounter with. He began to think of himself as a prophet who had been visited by an angel of God. As a result of this experience, however, Muhammad became suicidal and attempted to kill himself on multiple occasions. He had 2 main periods of suicidal thinking, where he began attempting to throw himself from mountains in a bid to find relief from mental torture. I said to myself, "Your humble servant is either a poet or a madman, but Quraysh shall never say this of me. I shall take myself to a mountain crag, hurl myself down from it, kill myself, and find relief in that way." The second period of suicidal thoughts came when these visitations ceased. The inspiration ceased to come to the messenger of God for a while, and he was deeply grieved. He began to go to the tops of mountain crags in order to fling himself from them. From these passages that show Muhammad's suicidal mental state, it seems clear he was visited not by an angel but by a demon, or possibly Satan himself, as Muhammad himself had first suspected. Now, visitations from angels who give people a different message were foreseen by the Apostle Paul in his letter to the Galatians. There we read, "But even if we or an angel from heaven should preach a gospel other than the one we preach to you, let them be under God's curse. As we have already said, so now I say again, if anybody is preaching to you a gospel other than what you accepted, let them be under God's curse." The cave experience was not the first time Muhammad had been in contact with something demonic. He apparently had a strange but undefined experience as a child, after which his carer became convinced he had been possessed by a demon. Further evidence for potential demonic possession comes even within the Quran. In Surah 81:22-25 and Surah 69:41-42, people claim that Muhammad was inspired by the devil and something of a madman. Further evidence of Muhammad's mental disturbance is to be found in the Hadith of Bukhari, volume 7 and number 660. For a whole year, he was so bewitched and befuddled that he thought he was having sexual relations with his wives when he wasn't. This is a strange scenario which can realistically only have 2 explanations. Either mental illness caused him to hallucinate, or he had some kind of sexual encounters with demonic entities. Either way, Muhammad was clearly disturbed. At one point in time, Muhammad admitted that Satan had put words in his mouth to compromise with pagan idol worship. These words have become known as the Satanic Verses. He later changed his mind on the issue, but it shows that he was unable to distinguish the source of his revelation.